We got to mix the mission statement with the idea that everything is relevant. Our stand-up is relevant. Living in New York is relevant because it's all how to deal with day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Is that generally it? Yeah. And how the littlest things in the world ruin your whole outlook on life just because of one day when it's really not that big of a deal, but we've got to find a way to deal with our fucking anger, basically.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Power of How. We got a busy week here in the Garment District of New York City.
Yeah.
Where it's a chore just to get here.
Yep.
You got to dodge 8
Rats.
questionable people, 9 rats, and
Not to mention all the trucks, the delivery trucks.
Oh, yeah.
The garbage trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're welcome that we're here, listeners.
Mm-hmm.
Brennan's got a hell of a week. Your February just ramps the fuck up.
Yeah. End of January, February.
A one-man show in, 5 days?
Yeah, about 4 days. 4 days, yeah.
You got the new podcast dropping. That's this.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this, we're 2 months deep into this by now, but we haven't released
You're
it
welcome.
yet while we're taping this. And you got a new apartment with new roommates.
Yeah.
How are we dealing with all of this?
So I wanted to save it for the show, which is good because I am spiraling out of control.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
nice.
it's
Makes
been
me feel so much better.
yeah. So it's Savannah and I have been fighting a lot, even though I move out in 2 days. But
Yeah,
it's getting to
that's
that
for
like
the listeners. That's your
my ex-girlfriend,
that
yeah.
you still live with.
Yeah, and everything was fine and cordial when I knew I was going to be there for the next month and a half, 2 months, because I couldn't move into my new place until February. And now that it's kind of ticking down towards the end, we've kind of pushed civility aside, and we're just kind of saying whatever we mean. And that's kind of it's kind of making things a little contentious. And then the one-man show, which you came, I appreciate it. You came to the reading.
Okay.
It's not over.
It's on Monday.
Yeah,
It's on Monday.
Read
Yeah,
through.
so you
Scared
came
me.
through the read-through, and you had a lot of very nice things to say, which I really appreciate. But I've put everything I have into this show.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound like woe was me because I had the opportunity to do so by moving to New York and the situation I'm in. But now it's become a thing. It's becoming more and more clear where I thought I've been doing comedy for 12 years. Everything I want to talk about is kind of dark. So I'm going to pivot. I'll do a one-man show so I can get it all out there, and then I don't have to focus. I can be silly again.
Right,
I don't have to focus on that. And I was talking to my director and a friend of his at rehearsals yesterday, and he basically informed me how this is a very good first step.
Uh-huh.
And in my mind, I was like, "Oh, the show is the final step.
Right.
We'll film it, and then I've got my co-host of my other podcast, Joe Dorval's going to edit it, and I was like, then we'll put it up on YouTube. Here we go." And he goes, "Oh, this is a good first step." And I was like, "I'm sorry, excuse me?
Yeah.
This is a very expensive first step."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, well, it's good you're filming it because we'll use that to submit to different festivals and
Right.
stuff like Fringe and Frigid and all that stuff." And he goes, "But you're not going to be able to put this up on YouTube."
Right.
What?
And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, you're going to have to do the show. You're going to have to get a run and do it 10, 15, 20 times, have it down like the back of your hand, and then we'll film that one, and
Yeah.
that's the one we'll probably put up."
Well, you're both right.
Yeah.
And it depends on. See, he's coming through it from the theater world.
That's the
And
thing.
the theater
yeah.
world is about getting asses in seats over and over
Yep.
and over again. Whereas stand-up is just put as much bullshit online
Yeah,
as
content,
possible
content,
every
yeah.
goddamn day, and then hope you can play the Chuckle Hut
Yeah.
in March
Yeah. So I was
for $1,200.
He's honestly telling me this, and I'll be honest with you too. And I was so excited we were doing this show today because I always leave feeling better. My heart sank.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've been grinding in stand up for minus the 3 years I took off when I was really bad in my alcoholism for almost 12 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've done the open mics, I've done the bar shows, I've done the bringers, I've done all of that shit.
Yeah.
And I'm still not moving forward. And none of us are. We're not where we think we want to be or should be or whatever. So I was like, I'll pivot. I'll do the one-man show, and that'll open up a whole new avenue. Well, come to find out, I don't know if you guys know this, But the theater world is a lot like stand-up, where you have to start at the bottom and work your way up.
Yeah.
And I thought I was just going to walk in and be at like level 7,
right.
and that's not the case.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, so like I still have to. Like, I reached out to critics so I could have something to put on the poster when I released it on YouTube. And they were like, if the show's not doing a run, like, we're not going to review it.
Right.
Like, we're not going to review it if no one can go see it after the fact.
Well, first of all, God bless them for that.
Yeah.
Because I do stand-up shows, like it's one night only in the town, and the newspaper reviews it.
Oh, yeah.
And then just trashes you even though you're not going to be there next week.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is like, this all makes sense to me.
Yeah,
I know
does.
it's not like what you were
But
looking
I
for.
was like, no.
But there's a couple of things here. One is, yeah, you're starting from the bottom in the acting world, in the theater world, but now you're starting from the bottom in 2 places. Yeah. Right? So you don't have your eggs all in one basket.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is good. I was going to tell you before we even started that my friend did a one-man show, and he did it for years.
Oh, did he?
And it kept growing and changing. And I was going to tell you in that sense that you're looking to get it perfect for this first show. And what I was thinking, what I was going to say, but I don't like to talk before the mics are on.
Yeah.
Is it's only going to get better and better and better and better over the next couple of years.
Yeah. And
but this is good.
Yeah.
The people you're going to meet and the potential for this to be an off-Broadway show or a Broadway show or whatever the fuck is so cool.
Yeah.
And then you also get to do stand-up comedy at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to I don't know, I think it's all good. And I'll also tell you that I thought it was explained to me that when my half-hour special came out that was going to be the thing, and then they could book me and then all this stuff. And it came out and just none of that shit happened. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You always think this milestone is going to be it. And it can a lot of the times be something that you don't expect.
Yeah.
Like for a lot of people, podcasting was it. Mm-hmm. And they weren't like, oh, I hope one day to have a podcast. They just kind of started it.
Yeah, we all
willy-nilly.
just started doing it, and then all of a sudden, and that's the one thing, if you're talking about the same person who I think you're talking about, he was a big inspiration for the show, because I heard him talk about how his stand-up career, again, wasn't where it wanted to be, but he had all these stories, so he just did a one-man show, and then that over time took off. And that's the thing, too, is having the one-man show opens up so many more doors for different festivals and different things like that. So I'm excited to do it. I'm excited that I put it together. It is that one thing, though, where you come to the realization of oh wait, we're just getting started.
Yeah.
And also it's in my back pocket. I have it for as long as I want to do it. I can do it.
Yeah. It's also the second one man show is going to be about hanging out with all these theater people.
Yeah. They're a different breed.
And that's kind of cool, man. That's what I mean. It's different worlds, and stand up is more your home, more like-minded people. But it's good to get out of that, because stand-ups can be the reason Daniel and I said we got to have a podcast about positivity is because stand-ups can get in this mentality where they just complain about things as an art form.
Yeah.
And then it never wraps up. You're just left feeling oh, well, that sucks too.
Yeah.
About life.
Yep.
So this is a different breed of people. Actors are hilarious. They're just you go to an audition and they're all happy and kind of optimistic. I don't know what they're like in the car, probably crying on the way home.
Maybe.
But there's more of a supportive vibe amongst actors, at least on a superficial level.
Yeah, and that's what I've noticed that too, is it's very much like I did a read through last night with my director and then a friend of his who's also directs and is in the theater world, and she was so this was fantastic.
Yeah, that's all the actors are.
Yeah,
and then all the directors are like a football coach.
Yeah.
That sucked out there. You want to do this for a living? You're going to embarrass yourself.
Yeah, and you want that. I personally, I totally agree with him.
Yeah.
And I get it that you are approaching it from a stand-up special, but I think that's incredibly valid and wonderful advice. Mm-hmm. And I can only imagine how frustrating it is. But after hearing that, because in my mind I'm kind of thinking, I know it's a one-man show, but I know you're a stand-up, so to me it was just your hour. Mm-hmm. But yeah, to your point, it's you look at guys like John Leguizamo who run their shows for years, and then they tape it, and then it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And it is a one-man show is theatrical.
Oh yeah.
You know, you're also doing it in a theater venue, the Producers Club, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You're not doing it in a comedy club.
No, it's definitely a theater.
So it is. There's no drinks. There's no wait staff. There's more of an intimacy. It's made for that. So for what it's worth, and I don't know if you can do this at this point, but do you have to? I would tape it, but not with the greatest budget, or maybe simpler cameras. Or
that's what I did was I kind of I set the budget originally super high because I was like, oh, we're gonna do 4K, 6K. Like I want to make it so like I can submit it, like take meetings and maybe sell it. And then as we kind of proceeded in the process, I was like, yeah, we're gonna tamper
go
that
2K.
down.
We'll go 1K.
We'll go 720p.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll use my iPhone.
Yeah. And so I did.
We have 3
that.
iPhones.
Okay, flip phone.
Yeah. I did do that, and that was really smart. I reduced the budget on that, and to be honest, I do completely understand his point, and because to me, when I first started doing this, because it's definitely a one-man show, and I'm making sure to tell everyone who's coming, like, it's not a comedy hour.
Yeah.
So originally when I wrote it, I was like, oh, I have all these funny bits about crazy stories, so I'll write that out in order, and it'll be a one-man show. And then as it kind of developed, my director, who was incredible, was like, no, like, you need to talk about the shitty, like the bad stuff, like not just the bits. Like, you need to tell the story. So now it's like completely changed and mutated into like a real, like there's certain parts of it where I just can't help but cry. And so it's like it's a show. It's not a comedy. Like, it is funny, but it's not a comedy special. It's definitely more of like dark.
Yeah.
Which I really appreciate. And that's something I've always wanted to do, but I can't go to the stand and like cry on. So they're gonna be, what the fuck is this guy doing?
You get murdered.
Well, that'd be funny as
Not
hell.
just by the audience, but the next comic is gonna fucking rip you to shreds.
But to Matt's point, like, and it will transform even more after 15 shows, and after a year, and after 2, and
You'll be thanking Jesus.
Yeah,
that I did.
That you have this
Yeah.
tape 2 years from now, and not the one you're taping on.
and it's great. You'll still have that for social media. Like, you could still use
you can
your
still
phone.
clip up
Right.
stuff and-
But I think that's kind of a blessing that he said that.
Yeah, it's.
I can only imagine how frustrating it was because you had this idea in your mind that you were very attached
An
to.
expectation. I put
but
that
think about how
expectation out
long.
there.
Yeah.
And there's a value to milking something. I know this isn't milking something, but to you it feels like it's milking something. For the next 2 years, you get to say, "Yeah, I'm working on my one-man show."
That's true. I always have
working
something
on
I'm
my
working
one-man
on. Yeah.
show. I'm not just a comic.
Yeah.
I'm also an actor, and I'm doing my own one-man show. I'm the man in the one-man show. You
Well,
see,
that
my director tells me it's too good. I need to
tone it
make it a little
down.
bit more rough. Challenge myself more because it just comes so easy to me.
Well, that was the thing, was when I was talking to my director yesterday, because he's not quite the football coach like the ones I was raised with, but he's very much like, I'm going to tell you if it sucks.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you when you're doing stuff that sucks.
Right.
But the person that he brought in, like I said, she was so encouraging and so nice. And she literally said, and because I wrote it, it's like, it's my show.
Yeah.
But it's funny you say that because I don't think of it that way. And she was just like, you're a fantastic writer. And I was like, well, I mean, I'm okay.
Right.
She goes, no, and your acting is great. Your voice carries. Like you seem like you've been doing this for. And I'm like, okay, like everybody, calm down.
Dude,
Well, you have in many ways, because there are a lot of parallels between theater and stand-up.
Absolutely.
So you have been on stage. You have been using your body. You have been, you already have a naturally deep, strong voice.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she's right if she, and also, actors are not writers.
Right. You never think about that.
Right.
That's true.
They're
Yeah.
not writers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that till
Yeah.
you just said that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're wowed by there's a weird love and a hate between comics and actors. I believe so. I believe like a lot of actors look up to comedians and they want to do comedy and they want to try that. And at the same time, I believe a lot of actors also admire the craft of acting and the intricacies of just not playing yourself. And I think there's more so of that battle between
there's
improv and
improv and stand up is just like nasty.
That's a battle.
It's like the nerds versus the jocks.
Hell yeah, it is.
And even the nerdy comedians are like they get all jocked up all of a sudden. You know what I mean?
But then you'll see comics take improv classes.
Of course.
You're right.
There are so many comics I've had on the other show where they talk about, I got into comedy through improv.
Yeah.
And then we'll be talking about it, and they're like, yeah, but fucking improv, right? And I'm like, you started in improv. They're like, yeah, fucking improv, right? And I'm like, wait, that's where you started.
It's not so much improv as improv shows.
Yeah.
That's the deal. Improv acting is like really fun.
Improv shows or improv culture?
Improv culture is gross. It's like being at a ski lodge or something. It's like all like rich kids and shit.
Yeah.
And like they say, they don't write anything. They're just like, whatever diarrhea comes out of my mouth, which can be valuable.
It can be
be a
brilliant,
waste of time.
but could be brilliant.
And that's why there's editing and that's why there's writing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Improv is a valuable tool, but the way we use improv as comedians is when the scripted stuff is going wrong, or when we just want to like open up with some improv and then get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, when that's all they have, there's nights where they just don't have a thing, like nothing's sticking.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And I feel like comics are also, some are more prone to being improv based, and some are, like I heard, I never saw Sinbad. I love his stand up, but I heard that he just goes on stage and has nothing written.
Yeah.
Right.
And he has these ideas
Right.
that he just develops on stage while he's headlining. And that to me is insane.
That's a whole another level of talent
I've never,
that most improv actors or comics don't have.
Right.
Well, I heard Dane talk about it. I think at the Madison Square Garden, the Vicious Circle.
Yeah.
He's like, that's like 60% improv.
Right.
So I guess the way he said it, or Bert said it, I think it was on Bert's podcast, but the way he said it is it's like a boat. So his material is the boat, and a lot of times he'll jump out and swim as far as you
That's what Dane Cook said?
I think.
Because
or
that's
Bert.
what Bert Kreischer says all the time.
It was Bert then.
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
Bert because I think they were talking about like how they do shows and stuff. So Bert must have said it. But I remember that resonated with me, the whole idea of like the material is here, and then you get out and you see how far away you can get from it. But then if anything happens, you can always go back to the material, which is something we talk
you go
about
back
all the
to
time.
The boat
yeah.
with a cooler full of beer on it.
Yeah. and I feel like the funniest, by far the funniest actors are improv actors, are based in improv, or really, really, really hacky comics. But those are the fun on screen. Those are the funniest.
Yeah, because it plays through the screen for sure.
Beautifully.
This is the main difference I see, and this is always interesting to me, between acting and comedy.
Right.
Forget actors and comedians.
Right.
The job.
Mm-hmm.
Acting requires you to be like kind of open like a channel and just kind of listen and kind of I'm probably not using the right word, but like react in a way, like
Listen and answer.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas, and in other words, not thinking so much, just being in the moment. Whereas a comic is like thinking. They're always like 5 minutes ahead of themselves.
Yeah.
They're always thinking. All right, I'm in the middle of this punchline. Now I'm going to say something about you.
Right.
Like, there's just like
Right.
I can't tell you how many times I'd be like, oh, I know how to end this joke because that guy's drinking a Slurpee.
Right.
Like, fucking.
But don't you think that's also a lot of your jokes being compartmentalized?
Yes.
Yeah. So right. So it's not so much. It could be in the moment, but it could also be like just your Rolodex.
Yeah.
Of backup jokes. And
Right.
How to, when I tank, same thing. I know where to go.
Yeah.
Or when I'm in trouble.
You've got a ripcord you can pull.
Where's the
always.
boat? Where's the boat?
Right. But that's amazing, man. That's really great news. That's really and it's cool that you're going through it, and you're because how sad in a way would it have been, like, let's say Monday you do your show and it's over, but now you have really you have something to look forward to.
That's exactly right.
And you put so much work and effort and heart, and to just have it end Monday, when
That's a great point, because that's what they said. They go, yeah, I mean, Edinburgh, not this summer, but next summer. They're like, that's the goal.
Yeah.
We want to get it so tight, so refined that by Edinburgh 2024, you're selling out, like you're crushing. And they were like, and this show can do that, because they're both out. They've been to these festivals. They go, we've seen so much shit. Like, this is a good show.
Right.
And so they were like, and it's so great that you brought that up because it was very enlightening where I was like, oh yeah, like this is, and like we talked about earlier with like, you know, a year, 2 years, whatever. It's like, oh, this is the thing because it's never going to not be my thing. My whole identity, and people say brand, but I fucking hate that. But my
brand.
whole identity is this guy who had a promising future and then pissed it all away and then came back and was like, I need to, like, I'm going to make this work. And I did.
Yeah.
And so that never goes out of style. Like,
No,
redemption
no.
never
Comeback,
gets.
right? Mickey Rourke and
Yeah.
Jesus
Rocky.
Christ,
That's Rocky.
maybe.
Yeah.
Ever
Let's
heard
start
of
there.
him?
Let's start there. That's a good beginning.
Not many people know this story.
Even like, yeah, the Robert Downey Jr. thing. It's there's a whole list of people that like have
the
had big
comeback
comebacks.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But people
love
like
that.
redemption, and the thing, and this is the last thing I'll say, and then we can move on about it if you want to. But the thing that really stuck out to me was the friend of my director. She looked at me dead in the eyes and she said, who is this show for?
Yeah.
Which I had the answer already loaded because when I started writing it, I already knew who I was writing it for. And I said, this is for the people who are in a situation like I was, where, you know, you have all this stuff going on and you think life's going to be good. And then you go down a wrong path and you just keep going.
Yeah, dude.
And you can't find your way out of the forest.
I've been there.
Yeah, well, and I told her, I was like, that's who it's for. It's for the people who have lost hope or need to
Yeah,
find some sort
right.
of hope. And she was like, then that's the audience.
Yeah.
Like, fuck everyone else. Like,
Yeah.
that's the audience. And I was like, oh, there's always going to be those people. And I was one of those people.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, yeah, this is something. So to your point, it was a big relief when they were like, oh, yeah, no, we're going to keep doing this. But it was also heartbreaking when they were like, oh, yeah,
Let me
that budget, everything, light it on fire. Nobody cares. Like, it's over. And I was like,
Right.
oh,
No, it's an investment, and
Yeah.
also just think about how you will get to do this in front of so many people, and then compare it to if you put it out in March, and it's just like how to cook cookies. The first time I went to jail,
Yeah.
and then it's just people skipping through you on TikTok.
Yeah.
Like they'll see like 3 seconds of it. You'll be mixed in with thousands of videos that someone looks at a day instead of getting people to the theater and having their attention
Absolutely.
for 40 minutes,
Yeah.
for an hour. So much more of an experience.
Well, and how
than just
heartbreaking
dumping it.
How heartbreaking would it be is if I was like, no, I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm putting this on YouTube, and then it gets 100 views,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, my life story, like everything I've done,
Sure.
like got like, you know what I mean? Like that would be devastating.
I
Yeah.
know.
But also you can't base your sense of self on fucking views.
This is why I wanted to come in.
No,
today.
you know what I mean? That's just like that's like bullshit. I just saw this thing with Denzel and Jamie Foxx, and they're like, and I think Jamie Foxx was talking about how important it is to just constantly be doing something and constantly like present on social media.
Yeah.
And Denzel was like, yeah, but then you just put out anything, and as an artist, you would rather put something really, really good every now and then. And then he gives the example, like, you know, when do we see Daniel Day-Lewis? You know, every 7 years.
Yeah.
And he's retired now, but when he comes out, boy, does he come out.
See, that's what I like.
know?
Yeah.
I'm old school that
right,
way.
me
I
too,
get that's that Merrick Garland.
Yeah, right.
Like
right,
school of thought. Where like,
Right.
yeah, I'm working
Yeah,
on something,
yeah,
motherfucker.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
need to show you my work.
Right.
Well,
right,
You know,
right.
I don't like showing my work.
We
Yeah.
talk about it all the time. Is
But
that
everything's
all this
watered down,
content
right.
is exactly
Right.
it's not ready.
It's gross.
And I've even
we
fallen
live in a
into
world
that.
today where it doesn't need to be ready. It could be done so quickly with your phone, and that'll get millions of views. And you know, we come from a perfectionist side, but for better or worse. You know, I know I want everything to look the way I perfectly envision it, and it never will be. But I at least want to give it the best possible shot.
I'm
before I
with
put
you.
it out there,
Yeah, me
you
too.
know? And then, but this is not the reality that we live in.
No.
So that's what's messed up.
It's like if you look at it from a business point, you almost should be advertising every day because everybody else is. But
how many times-
unfortunately,
yeah,
I'm not a
right.
businessman.
Right.
I'm just not.
But even not being a businessman, like, I'm tired of like I've pulled away a lot from social media, but I'm tired of when I'm on it seeing the same faces over, and no matter how good or funny it is, I get desensitized by seeing you on my feed all
Whoever
the time.
I follow, I start to hate.
Right,
I'm like, oh,
right.
this
Yeah,
again?
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
I've had to unfollow certain because they'll dump so much material.
Yeah.
Like they'll do, and
Right.
and I don't, like especially on TikTok because I don't follow that many people.
Yeah.
So if someone puts out in a week, someone puts out like 10 clips, I'll see them like all in a row, and I'll be like, I gotta get I gotta get away from this person.
Yeah.
Right.
I know. I
Right.
know. In the same way.
Yeah. It's tricky, man. It's tricky because it's your integrity and again, it goes back to your sense of self-worth, and God forbid you ever think views or likes have anything to do with
And it's
Yeah, you're
designed that
absolutely
way.
right.
Have you guys seen
Oh, yeah.
the documentary?
I didn't see it. I know which one you're talking about though.
But they just talk about one thing specifically, which really resonated with me. They're like, that one day where you get a shit ton of likes, it's almost a bad thing because the next day you want the same amount of likes.
Yeah.
You want that like rush again.
That rush, right.
But you're probably not going to get it. And then you're hooked. You're like, when's my next fucking 1,000 likes coming up?
Well, that's
2,000 likes coming up.
That's what happened with TikTok. That's why it was so
Yeah.
successful is they would push, didn't matter who you were. Your first couple videos, they would pick one and push the shit out of it.
Yeah.
So you could be a nobody, just you're not in entertainment, you're not doing anything. You just like take a quick TikTok video and all of a sudden you get 200,000 views and you're like, oh, I love this. I got to keep doing it.
That happened to me, and it was so funny because I put my appearance on the dating game in 1997. It's like one of my only videos on TikTok.
Right.
And it says Matt Fulcher on the dating game, and all the comments are like, "Who the fuck is this? Like, why is this relevant?"
Right,
And I
right,
just
right,
didn't
right.
answer. I just let him go. And then occasionally I see someone like, "I saw him open for Segura in Shreveport. He's funny," but it's like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
26 years ago.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's weird because I experience it now when something I don't know if this has happened to you two, but I took a clip from the Hannah Berner thing because she's incredibly popular on social media, and she was doing this Hannah on the Street thing.
Yeah.
And one of them was about therapy, and I just laugh. And so I clipped that because I thought it was funny, and I put it on mine, and it went as viral as anything I've ever put up. It got like 500,000 views or close to it. Yeah. And it was on my page, and I didn't see like a big boom in followers from it or anything like that. But the comments were just so negative. It was like, this guy obviously needs therapy, red flag, red flag. And I'm like, are you guys not reading the room? Read the other comments. You're all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But the algorithm is like, oh, well, you have to engage.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. I am crazy, blah, blah, blah. And then by like day 3, I was just like, I'm done. And every time I'd open Instagram, it'd be like, 78 likes. And I'd be like, I'm going to delete this. I don't even want this post anymore.
I stopped writing people like 12 years ago when my half-hour special came out because like I would write people back then, but I pretty much stopped as soon as I got in this one thing with this guy was like, it was on Facebook, and he's like, "Hey Matt, is this joke funny?" And he told the joke, and I didn't answer him. He's like, "Hey, checking in. Is that joke funny?" "Hey man, what the fuck? You're not going to answer me?" "You know what? Fuck you,
you
dude.
gotta stand,
hey,
man."
You know what, man?" He goes, "And you seem so down to earth too." Like I seem so down to earth on my half-hour special.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I was just hanging out. "You made it seem so casual." Yeah, that's the fucking job.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he lost it, like it got even worse than that, I wrote, "Hey man, just checked out that joke. Really funny." And then I just blocked his ass.
Well, that's something. It's funny because
But it scares me. That shit scares
that's
me,
some
and
Stan-
it's
that's some
weird.
Stan
It's
shit.
weird to me, and it's usually not that bad. But there is the other users can adopt, especially if they're not a real person, if they have a fake picture and a fake name, can just really be condescending and judgmental. And even if it's just like a checking in. Like, "Hey, Matt, I wear white socks too." It's just kind of weird to me to talk about even something as trivial as that with somebody I don't know.
Well, the other thing too is because I used to always be like, I never read comments. And that was easy to say because a lot of my stuff wasn't getting commented on.
Right.
So I could take that hard line and be like, I don't even read them. It's like, yeah, you're getting one comment per thing.
Sure.
But then, moving to New York and then you interact with other comics and then your social media starts to grow and then you start getting comments, it becomes addictive. And I know we've talked about that before. But the flip side is when people are like, hell yeah, this is great. And then you click on their page and you go, I don't want this guy. I don't want this person. Like, no, this isn't for you.
Yeah.
One time, this comment said, "Too bad." It said, "Matt Fulchiron's a really funny comic. Too bad he's such a cuck." Right? Which, first of all, like, yeah, I'm a funny comic. That's my job.
Yeah.
At least I'm good at a job nobody can fucking do.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
Right? If it was easy, it would just be the way.
Yeah, I just got a new cuck on my Twitter. I was feeling happy. I was falling for it again. I don't tweet that much anymore. I got like 30 likes on something. I'm like, that's a good
Here we
joke. It
go.
was something like, I just paid my therapist $125 to complain that I have no money. And this dude just wrote cuck with like a couple of clowns. I'm just like, I'm a cuck because I go to therapy, and I guess because I don't make money.
Yeah, fuck them.
Right.
Block. I just block, you know? And like people get excited about that. I got blocked. Good for you.
Some people wear it as a badge of honor.
Good for you.
I don't know.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's so. I think like all this is like programming us for like social scoring.
Yeah, that's what they do.
We're there. We
Yeah.
are there.
We're
In
not
China,
there.
they have
We're
social
not
credit
there.
scores.
Yeah, and I saw this documentary that if you buy alcohol, you lose points, but if you buy water, you gain points.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
If you say anything against the government, you lose points. Some people have so little points that they can't take the train anymore to travel.
This is where? Where does this
China,
happen?
In China.
Oh my
and
God.
sometimes they will, if your score is so low in a movie theater, they'll post your face, like 3 faces of what the lowest scores.
Wow.
And I'm not sure if these people are in the theater room or not, but they will shame you publicly, and whether we like it or not, look at this conversation we're having about likes and views and blocks and how we like it, how it makes us feel, how we don't like it. Like we're just getting groomed to just we're almost there. It's like that episode in Black Mirror. Have you seen it?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna
So
say.
That's it, man.
It was like, guys, can you give me some likes? I need to get to Houston.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I can't afford this flight.
Yeah. If you if you're buying coffee, are you smiling? Are you not? But it's insane, and it's getting so deep into our psyches that we are truly identifying with these fucking thumbs up and likes and hearts and has nothing to do with who we are.
Yeah, and I think we're
At
already there.
all.
I think we're already there business wise.
Yeah.
I think
we
people
almost
will
have to
tell
be.
you to your face.
Right,
Like
but-
club owners will say, "Well, you don't have enough followers on."
Oh, they've
social
said
media."
they've said that to
Of
me.
course they say
yeah.
that. It's the first thing they say.
Yeah.
It's the only thing they're looking at.
I actually had, because I was reaching out to PR firms to try and get producers to come to the show.
Yeah.
To see if I could get a run somewhere, because that's the ultimate goal now that we've hashed it all out and everything, talking with the director and talking with you guys and stuff. The ultimate goal is for a theater or a producer of a theater to come up to me and go, "Hey, run the show at my theater so I don't have to incur all the expense anymore."
yeah.
And it was so funny because one of the PR firms I reached out to, and everyone's been oddly professional. Like, it's New York, and everyone's like, "Oh, you know, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere." I'm like, these guys are actually really sweet. These guys and these men and women are very, like, they
Yeah.
respond like, "Hey, we understand
Yeah.
this is the first time you're doing it. Like,
Right.
don't worry about it." One of the PR firms, the CEO, followed me on Twitter. And I was like, no. Instagram. All my followers are on Instagram. And I was like, who the fuck cares, man?
Right.
But it is, I think the internet has provided something for us, which is that ultimate reach where we can
Of
get to all these
course.
people. The flip side, though, is everyone's attention span is so cut up that now they're not even watching the whole joke, and it's only 12 seconds, and they're not even watching the whole thing.
Have you ever looked at your run times on YouTube? They're always shorter.
miserable, yeah.
Yeah.
I put up a 12-second joke, and it was like 45%.
They're usually less than 50%.
I was like, that's 6 seconds.
Right.
You can't get through 12 seconds?
Yeah. And welcome to your new comedy audience.
Yeah.
when
You
get
can't
up there.
hear the punchline. You just like the setup.
As someone once told me in Atlantic City after 3 seconds, get to the funny, dick.
Right.
I'm like, give me 6, give me 7 seconds.
Yeah.
I swear to you, I can do this.
Right.
Yeah.
I promise. I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah. This is in the middle of like a fucking tour where I like had to be funny for 3 weeks prior.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Oh, yeah. I've done
Yeah,
this.
I was opening for Daniel Tosh. It's like he hired me. Like fucking relax.
Right.
I'm not just some dude. I'm not like the fucking pit boss.
Yeah.
Right.
Walk up to him right before the show. You're like, hey, can I do 10?
I've told people like that. I've been like, Daniel hired me to be here. You guys should treat me like I answered an ad on Craigslist.
Yeah, and it's only getting worse, man.
Yeah.
I saw
only getting
something not good for the attention span that clearly made it on the internet. It was this movie called Skinamarink.
No.
And
I got nothing.
it's this movie. I was having like kind of a shitty day. I was getting
Is it a horror movie?
Well, it's a horror movie, but it's like an experimental horror movie.
Okay.
So this Saturday, I was like kind of bummed because I found out I wasn't like getting this work I thought I might get, and I don't have any dates on the calendar. And like, I know not to panic about it, but it was just getting to me. I was disappointed. And just kind of a bleak day, cold. I don't know how you guys are dealing with winter. My wife doesn't deal with it well. And like when I'm not already
I'm from Canada.
Good,
this is not winter
it's no
for me.
big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from Florida. I'm spiraling out of control.
But we were having like this kind of a shitty day. Like we got to the movie theater and like Kristen went to sit in a chair and she just like fell on the ground.
Oh, God.
And like it was just kind of like a shitty day. And I said to her, I was like, today's so bad, like it's starting to get funny.
Yeah.
Like it's starting to get funny
An
how
episode
bad
of Curb,
today is.
yeah.
Right.
And so we started laughing about it a little bit. And then we went to this movie called Skinamarink, and my wife was so scared of the trailer. The trailer's awesome. And then it's just 2 hours of these static shots. And when I say static, I mean on a tripod, and also it's this film stock from the 90s that's like grainy, and even the sound is grainy.
Yeah.
There's no people in this movie. It's supposed to be a horror movie. There's like scary things like every once in a while, but it's usually just pictures of toys and like a TV cartoon, like an old cartoon on a loop, and it just never goes anywhere. And then there's one point where like all these toys are like stuck to the ceiling, and it just says 572 days. Like they've been stuck in the house for 572 days. And I almost went, feels like it. Like I almost said, feels like it. And I knew it would have crushed, but I'm just past that point in my life. So I just like let it go. And I really was, it made me so fucking angry, this movie. Because usually if you even go to see a bad movie, at least there's entertaining. There's pretty people.
Yeah.
There's dumb jokes.
This isn't like an art house
You try
theater?
to
This
figure
has to
out.
be like an art
yeah, this
house
is the
thing.
Nighthawk Cinema, which plays mainstream Hollywood movies.
Oh, it does? Okay.
But I would never comprehend, because I went to like a college where I studied like art film. That's what all our teachers wanted us to make.
Yeah.
We all wanted to make Hollywood movies.
Right.
They wanted us to make this. So I'm familiar with this shit. And so I'm actually kind of into this shit when presented to me. But 2 hours of it, like it was probably the worst movie I ever saw.
It sounds
And
like
I
it.
really didn't understand why I paid money to see it, because the budget I read was like $15,000. That's how bad. The funniest part is when the beginning they wrote, we all followed COVID-19 guidelines, and I'm like, yeah, no shit. There's no people.
no one in there.
No people in the fucking movie.
Right.
I did too. You know, when I filmed my fucking Instagram story. And I don't know. The moral of the story is don't go see Skinamarink.
No.
And also, like, I hacked the day by starting to laugh at how shitty it was. So that was supposed to be fun. That was supposed to be the relief. And that sucked too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I was just like, we were laughing. I was in good spirits by the end of the day.
That's
and
good.
I can't do that all the time.
But you watch a lot of horror movies, right?
No, I don't. Horror movies are
or
not
your
my
wife?
thing.
But your wife
My
does?
wife does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
right.
And it's hilarious because she's like really scared of them.
That's what I was
Right.
going to say.
Yeah.
She's like, so.
She's totally scared of horror movies. She's scared of the devil. She's scared of ghosts. She's scared of all this stuff that's not even real. And like, I'm just like, there's real shit to be scared of, like eviction. Yeah, no, that's some homeless. That's scary.
Yeah.
That's some scary shit. But no, she likes horror movies. Horror movies make me laugh. Like when something's really eerie or
Right.
scary, it makes me laugh, because when I actually do get scared for a second, it's amazing. It's like taking a drug or something. It's like, that's why people like it.
Yeah.
Right.
But it doesn't scare me. Like I never think it's real.
People like that adrenaline, though.
They like the adrenaline, and we're designed to be in fear so we can like run away from a lion or like a chimpanzee or something. But
Anxiety's good for
we
you.
we have like simulated dangers in our life. Even like, oh, I'm going to go bankrupt. that's like numbers on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
It sucks, but it ain't a lion chasing you.
Right.
So like we need that primal experience. Unfortunately, it's not that healthy because you're just sitting in a chair. You're supposed to run when you get that.
Well,
scared.
that's so I saw in I saw on Instagram. I was scrolling through stories, and they were interviewing this woman who was who did the flight suit thing.
Yeah.
You know, where you jump out of the plane, you've got the wingsuit.
Yeah.
And she had like this look on her face. And I've obviously halfway houses and stuff. I know people who, and I've done all sorts of crazy drugs. And she had this like look of like sheer ecstasy, like just
yeah.
And they were like, "Why do you do it?" And she's like, yeah. But that's what you're talking, like that primal, like adrenaline,
Yes.
like I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And like people crave it, they love it, and then to get it simulated at a theater, it's a little different. But people still like that. Like roller coasters are super popular for that same reason. It's like,
I had no idea that like my youth into my adolescence, into my adulthood, I'm just realizing it now, was hijacked by that sensation as a skateboarder.
Yeah,
and I could totally see the connection between that and substance abuse.
Oh yeah,
because. First of all, it takes the same type of personality.
Mm-hmm.
And second of all, there's the addiction that just goes with it. Whether you're an addictive personality or not, you still kind of want to feel good again.
Yeah.
And like surviving like a fall or something. I've like really survived like crazy falls, like 10 feet. And
what?
I've flown off a fucking ramp and landed on a jump ramp.
Yeah.
I've really fucked myself up really badly. I used to skate half pipes. Big half pipes. And, you know, I'm doing this as a 14-year-old. And I was pretty good. And I fell a lot and I succeeded a lot. And it's a great metaphor for stand-up.
Right.
But there you go. Plug that right in. Holy shit. I'm blowing my own mind. It's all the same thing. It's all like the same thing. It's that risk.
Right.
And the survival of
That used
this
to be
dangerous situation.
That used to be one of the fun things when drinking was still fun for me. One of the fun things was doing a couple shots and going into work and seeing if I could get away with it.
Right.
And those stakes are like, if you get fired, you're fucked.
It's like being an undercover agent.
Yeah, but like it would be fun. And like, and then like halfway through the shift and you start coming down and you start to get a little hungover, but you'd be like, I fucking did it, man.
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
I get cocky with booze where I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty good. Nobody knows. Nobody knows when you're out drinking with people. As soon as you get to work, I had like a Budweiser at my lunch break one time at my office job. I'm like, everybody knows.
They know.
I'm off.
Yeah.
I am off.
Yeah, that used to be a fun thing. And then obviously it gets to a point where it's not fun. But that sense of danger is something that's very, very real. And
it's fear of death, I think. You know, I think every fear is rooted. Every fear. It could be the littlest fear. It could be failing an exam, or I think everything is rooted in death. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like your physical body, but again, it comes back to the sense of the image of yourself. Like when you fail or when you bomb or when you, that's kind of the death of the image of yourself.
You're right.
So it's surviving that and fleeing that or escaping that gives you that rush that you're still alive, be it your image or your body, your actual physical body. But it's kind of crazy that it all comes down to death.
I read something in this book called something about like don't give a fuck. I forget what it's called. There's a lot of books
subtle
like,
art of not giving a fuck.
Yeah. And he said we all have a fear of death, and that's why we all kind of want to be famous. And you might say, well, does everybody want to be famous? Yeah. Check out your Instagram.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be famous just for like having a kid and mowing the lawn and shit. Like people want their lives documented.
Yes. But that's also what we see. But there's a pool of people that are not even on social media.
Right.
So, yeah, what we see, I agree with you.
I'm saying there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
That I can see.
Well, there's the ancient...
It's not just my need to be known as a successful comic. Trust me. Theoretically, I know it doesn't matter. But my ego, I suppose, I don't know this terminology so well, but I want it documented that I'm a fucking awesome comic.
Yeah.
And I want my grandkids to know, and even though I don't have kids, my nieces, my grandnieces and nephews. It's just this weird thing. And you're right. I like this concept, even though it's scary. Fear of death. Like, it's so weird to think that, no one's really going to remember you in 100 years. Like, I don't really know much about my great grandparents.
Well, kids today don't even know the Beatles.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's
So,
the ancient Greek philosophy.
yeah.
You know?
Something that always makes me feel better / worse is when I get obsessed about, I want to be known as the best comic, which is absurd. But you say to yourself or someone else, who was the best comic 100 years ago? Who was the best comic 150 years ago? And you go, I don't know.
Yeah.
Mark Twain, maybe? Well, who was the second? I don't fucking know.
Yep.
Because as much as you think it matters, it just doesn't fucking matter. And then when you consider like how long humans have inhabited the earth,
Right.
and then how long the
Yeah.
earth goes, it's like, who gives a fuck about my Swayze no Wazy joke?
Right.
No, who gives a
I do,
fuck?
I do.
You
I do. Yeah. Me too.
While we're here,
Yeah.
that's very entertaining. And every time they remake a Swayze
Right.
movie, that joke comes back into style.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
and it's
but-
true. It's exactly what you said. When you think about it, there's two authors. There's whoever wrote the Bible, and then there's Shakespeare. you know? But in between
Yeah,
that,
there's-
there's 1,600 years.
Cuts right to Mark
of-
Twain.
Right, and then Mark Twain.
Yeah.
Exactly, and
Which,
it's
yeah, a few hundred years after that.
And then somehow it cuts to the Three Stooges,
right.
and then Regis Philbin.
Yeah, and it's true. I think we all have I know I do. I know I definitely want to leave something behind when I pass away. I remember when Giannis Papas had his first kid. He's like, well, I feel like I just had my first kid now, and he asked me like, how don't you feel like you can die now? Like you've done what you, and I'm like, no, you got to raise him. Like you can't just leave him. It's like there's more to it than just having
There's a deadbeat dad, and then there's a dead
exactly.
dad. Yeah.
So, and for a lot of people, it's having kids, and that's but. And for a lot of people, it's art. Or a lot of people, it's a message or a teaching. But I think what I fear is that, or not what I fear, who cares, I'll be dead. But, everything, there's so much more being documented today that I think it will easily get lost the way it got lost before with no documents.
Yeah.
Now it's going to get lost with too
Too
many.
much.
Yeah.
That's what Jerry Seinfeld was
Yeah.
on
It's an
one time. He was
oversaturation.
going, you were embarrassed about your tweet? Nobody saw your tweet.
Right.
Yeah.
It's now the equivalent of me saying it to you without these mics on, because there's so much chatter.
Yeah.
Like nobody can keep track. Until you get successful, you better delete your shit, because they're
Right,
going to
right.
comb through your shit.
Right.
I think we've talked about this before, where when you got into podcasting, there wasn't so many podcasts, so it was like a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And now everyone has a podcast, so it's almost like we've gone out to the stand to hang out before, and we've actually sat there and like talked and everything, and then we kind of looked at each other and been like, oh yeah, this could be a podcast. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, that's just what it is now. Is everyone just kind of talks?
Yeah, it's like, why
Yeah.
are we not monetizing
Yeah.
this conversation?
Right.
Oh, another weird thing about death that I was just thinking about recently is, as important as we think we are, and we have affected many people's lives, and people will miss us like crazy, but it's a handful of people. Like, I don't know if you've ever left a city and come back to that city, and just to see how that city just business as usual without you
Yeah.
Right.
is disturbing. You're like, oh, you guys all still got along without me?
I go
The comedy scene was still great without me?
I think
go
about
back
that
home. That's how I feel with my parents.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I think about that in the restaurant all the time.
Yeah.
Where, like, I'll take some time off for like shows or for tours
Yeah.
or whatever, and then I come back and I go, the place didn't burn down? How did this place not burn down? How are you guys still successful without me here?
And it's funny. Yeah, my mom, when she retired, she worked for like, I don't know, 40 years. And when she retired, she was like, they're gonna be lost without me, And she was the person that everyone would go and get some help. She would
Yeah.
help. She would help a lot of people, and she was that reference. And then when she realized that everyone's replaceable,
Yeah.
that really hits, and so are, like, especially in comedy, it's like out of sight, out of mind.
It's so true.
It's insane.
And year to year.
Yeah. Month to month.
Yeah.
man.
Which comes
Yeah,
back
yeah,
to
yeah.
the oversaturation of content.
Yeah.
Because people don't want to be forgotten.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
just keep throwing stuff out there. Like,
There's like
remember
a-
me? Remember me?
Yeah.
Remember me?
There's like a parallel between, I think, like, well, you lived in LA, but LA and New York, they're both very lonely cities.
Yeah.
but they're lonely for the exact opposite reasons.
Okay.
You know, like there's all that space in LA. You feel lonely, but you feel lonely here with all the people. It's you feel lost.
Being here is like living on the internet,
You're right.
but being in LA is like living in the desert. Like especially if you're walking down the street, there's nobody on the street.
Yeah,
It's
everyone's in
really
cars.
strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a story about working somewhere and not working there anymore, and them needing you. I worked in production, and so that's a freelance job. And I like the grips were always assholes. No offense, grips, but you know you are. And
Hey, man.
so I'd put them in my phone, like Brian, a dickhead. Like his last name would be a dickhead, so I know a dickhead was calling. And then when I didn't work there anymore, I got this text. It was like, "Hey, the gate's locked," and I said, "I don't give a fuck," and I sent it back. Like, "Fuck you," I don't, just because he thought like he had the number of the site rep.
Yeah, the guy that went
But
off
I
the
didn't
gate,
work
yeah.
there anymore, so I was like, "Suck my dick."
Yeah.
Right.
Fuck off.
Which he must have been like, "Oh," because he liked
Yeah.
getting upset.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so some other poor sap had to
Was
deal
I a
with that
dick? Was I a
comment.
dick?
No.
I know.
No, I was not.
Nope.
Brian was a dickhead.
On my
Yes.
phone.
Yeah. I still got his number in there.
That's hilarious.
Is it still saved the same way?
I'm sure it is. You want me to see if I can pull it up?
That's so funny.
I like the idea of the fear thing, because that's a big thing that we talk about in the Super Secret program, is how everything is related to fear. Everything's fear based. And what I was gonna say earlier, because we were talking about like your
Sorry to interrupt, but I even got the name right.
I love how you put the A.
Hey, dickhead.
Not A minus, not
No.
B plus.
A. Dickhead.
Grade A,
Right, grade
piece
A,
of shit.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a great book. There's a great book called The Gift of Fear. Have you ever read
No.
By Gavin DeBecker.
I got to put it down.
Well, I'm truly blessed if fear is a gift.
No, it's great, but the book is mainly on rape prevention and on how to trust your intuition. And a lot of he gives a lot of stories and examples of women who were who were raped.
Yeah.
And he shares like their stories, and they all agreed in that book. They all agreed that before it happened, they just didn't trust their intuition. They knew that something was off. Like if they're walking back home and they have grocery bags, and a guy says, "Hey, let me help you with those bags," and she'll be like, "It's fine." It's like, "Oh, listen, I live right here. I'll be fine. Okay, I'll open the door." It's like, "Listen, these bags are really heavy. And what floor are you?" Second,
Yeah.
because I'm on the third floor.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm going up anyway. So she's like, "This feels off, but I don't want to come across as, I don't want to have a was I a dick story."
Yeah.
Exactly.
So she's like, "All right, I'm on." It's like, "Listen, do you mind if I just use your bathroom quickly?" And then next thing you know, the guy's in the bathroom, a complete stranger, because you can't say no. And so that whole book is on just really, really trusting your gut, your intuition, your whatever feels off. It probably is off.
Yeah.
It's amazing how polite we'll be.
Oh yeah.
Happened to me
Like
today.
well past
It could get you
our
killed.
safety level.
It could get you killed.
Yeah, my wife listens to this podcast about murder. All women do.
Right.
And what they say is, don't be nice. Don't be afraid to look crazy. Don't.
Yeah.
Just don't. You're gonna nice yourself to death.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know?
Well, and that's something similar to what you were talking about, Daniel. That's something that I've realized with having a few near-death experiences, and then the last time I drank, actually being told that I should have been dead.
Yeah.
Was it gives you a completely different perspective on life. So I moved to New York, and we've got all this stuff going on, and most of us do. But like to me, like I'll talk to people at work, and they go, "I don't." Like, that's a lot. Like 3 podcasts, the one-man show, you're still doing stand-up, like, and then you have this full-time job. And I'm like, hey, man, like, I'm not even supposed to be here
This
now.
bonus
Like,
round.
this is. So it's weird when I meet people, and I've had this happen in past relationships and stuff like that, where they're just kind of like, "Oh, I'm just kind of hanging out for now, and then I'll kind of see where it goes." And I'm like, that's not how... Like, in my mind, I'm like, that's not how this works.
Right,
Like,
right, yeah.
we're all on a clock. Like, do you not realize this?
Right.
And I think it's been a huge benefit to me. Like, the experience was horrible, and but I've learned so much from it to be like, oh no, like, well, I'm on the clock. Like, we got to go. Like, let's go.
That's what I do when life gets too much to me. I'll pretend like I'm dead.
Really?
It's like a great exercise.
Yeah.
I'll be walking down the street. This problem, that problem, this problem, that problem. I'm like, I don't know, man. You died yesterday. You fell off your roof.
Yeah, you got nothing now.
You got no problems. You're just walking down the street. Then I'm in the moment. Then I'm looking at it. I don't recommend it to everybody because I think if you think about death too much, it could lead to you dying in a way.
Yeah.
You think so?
Manifesting?
If you get into the idea of being dead, you could take certain steps.
Oh, yeah.
I trust myself not to hurt myself.
But is it like that whole like
It works for me.
Right.
Yeah.
But in philosophy,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
memento mori, that remember that you're gonna die.
It's a simulation.
right.
Yeah.
And if you remember you're gonna die every day, it's gonna actually, remind you how alive you are.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly reminded of that. Memento mori.
New York will remind you you're alive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or dead.
It's coming at you from every direction.
All right.
Or about to be dead. I think that's going to do it for the Power of How
This was fun.
Oh yeah.
episode. I
stuff,
won't even
man.
say because who knows. And what are our social media handles after all this social media shit? Where can you find us so we can ignore you?
At Brennan T Comedy on all social media, BrennanTComedy.com, and check out my other podcast. Brennan Tassif is your ex drinking buddy.
What are our social media handles though?
Oh,
this
for
podcast?
us?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were going to go individually. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
The Power of How podcast. At
Boom.
The Power of How podcast everywhere.
All right, check us out. Do you
Instagram,
want-
Twitter,
you wanna plug yours?
YouTube.
I don't want to plug mine
At
after
the power
today.
Of how, at the power of how.
Yeah.
At the
Check
Power
us
of How.
out. We only accept.
Now I feel like an idiot. It's a natural reaction.
Don't feel bad, Brennan. Now they're going to look you up and they're not going to look us up. You won this round.
Ding, ding, ding.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Don't write us.
Thanks for listening to The Power of How. Music by Daniel Torado, artwork by Nelson Diaz. Follow us on all the social medias at The Power of How Podcast. Rate, review, and subscribe, and check us out at patreon.com/The Power of How Podcast. Send us some positive vibes in the form of U.S. currency. See you next week, everybody.